Okay, hello Steve. Yes, I believe we can get started looking at the number of
Okay.
people join. Thanks.
All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Another session with mobile telecom fundamentals. Last time we, excuse me, we finished up talking, I believe it was on the different types of operators, the mobile network operator, and there's a lot of acronyms there. You have a mobile network operator, then we had mobile virtual operators, which different degrees of virtual where they can own various parts of the system, except the radio license. That the radio license is always the mobile network operator. And then there's mobile network aggregators, which buy capacity from a mobile network operator and then sell it to some of the smaller mobile virtual network operators. And then there are enablers. Enablers, a mobile network virtual enabler. They're ones that provide services. So the summary of that was on here. Let me see if I have the right slide there. This was the summary for your mobile network operator, and then your mobile virtual network aggregator, which buys access to the network from a full mobile network operator. And then a mobile virtual network operator buys access either from a full mobile network operator or maybe an aggregator. And then these enablers, they're the ones that provide billing or customer care, SIM provisioning, just all the other things that are necessary to maintain a mobile telephone company. Let's take a look at another concept within mobile telephony, and that's roaming. So I have several slides here on roaming. Now I added a couple slides. I don't believe these are in your workbook that I passed out. So I'll have to get you some of these additional ones. So because I added a couple because I wanted to include a few more things on roaming. If you look at roaming, we have a mobile, just an example of a mobile network operator here and just a separate mobile network operator over here. And they are connected together. They are connected with via a signaling network. Sometimes that signal, there's multiple what are called signaling aggregators. So there's multiple of these networks that connect other mobile network operators. It would not be feasible for any one mobile network operator, let's say Vodafone in Ireland, to directly tie with every other network operator, even some of the virtual network operators in the world. So, and all the ones they sign roaming agreements with. So they go through these signaling aggregators, and there are several of these, and these all talk to each other. So one network here might have one signaling aggregator, another network here might have another one, but they would still communicate with each other. The signaling would be for doing updating your location, for getting information from your home network to your where you're roaming to. So there's a lot of commercial end to roaming. You sign agreements. There's certainly signaling that has to tie together. There's all kinds of testing that goes. But what a roaming agreement allows you to do is it allows one network's subscribers to roam or use their services on another network. So there's two kind of terms that are used. So if we take this a subscriber here, and her home network is this one right here, is B. And now she's over using this network. So from the perspective of B, from her home network, she's what's known as an outbound roamer. That makes sense. And from the perspective of A, she is an inbound roamer. Now, when she can use the services here, but not for free. And also, she does not want to get different bills. If she's an international traveler and goes to 5 different countries or networks in a week's time, she does not want to receive a bill from each one of those. She'll only get the main bill from her home network. So, but you still have to use the facilities in this network. So, network A, that's this one, I'm sorry, right here, network A will charge network B for her using that system. And then network B, her home network, they will then give her the bill. So there's this roaming agreement where okay, we will agree to charge your users of your network. If you're roaming on this network, they will charge a certain amount of money to back to the home network. However, the home network does the same for any of their roamers. So this network has roamers in it from this network. And this network here has roamers from here. So at the end of the month, the end of the period, there's a settlement of accounts. And that goes through what's known as a clearinghouse. A clearinghouse settles the accounts on who owes what money. So each one gets a bill. Mobile network A will charge the home network B for the roamer's use of that network. And the same thing, mobile network B will charge A for any of their roamers using the B network. Now, once a roamer is in a network, let's say this is a roamer and this is the roamer's home network over here. The visited network, what are they going to provide? Well, the visited network provides access to the radio. Okay, you need that for your mobile phone to work, obviously. They use their facilities, this inbound roamer would use the facilities for a circuit switched call. In other words, they want to call one of their friends, or they want to call a local restaurant for make reservations. If they use the services, they can use the switching facilities there to place a call. So that's use of the network for circuit switched calls. They can also use this network for short message service. So if this subscriber taps out a short message, that's going to go to the cell tower, to the switch, and then it's going to be delivered from there. We'll talk about SMS later. But also for mobile terminators, someone sends a short message to them. So this visiting system is also responsible for the mobility of them and for communication with the home system for authentication. To authenticate that is really who they say they are. There's a signaling path here for authentication. Now, data is different though. Data is tunneled to the home network. It doesn't have to be. In other words, if this subscriber is an inbound roamer, this is me. I get on a plane and I fly to Accra, and I get off the plane. I'm going to use a network there. So Verizon has signed a roaming agreement with some network, or maybe multiple networks in Accra. I can place a local call. I can use the facilities in Accra. However, if I go I want to look at the news, illinoisnews.com or something like that, or google.com. That data gets tunneled back to my home network. There is a tunneling protocol that gets set up between the visited network and the home network. Inside that tunneling protocol are your packets, are your data packets. Now, could you access the data from the visited network? Sure, technically, yes. Technically, the mobile switch here could connect right up to the internet, and you could access data there. Most, if not all companies, mobile companies, do something called home routing. You can use the facilities here for the switching and the local facilities, but when it comes to data, the home network wants to see that. They want to see what data you use. They sell that data. So data is tunneled to the home network to maintain a consistent IP address. So the home network can track your data usage. If I access data from Accra, Verizon would have no way to track my data usage. So the home network can enforce policies on different data streams. We'll talk more about this later, but when it comes to data, you can apply what are known as policies, different policies to different data streams. You can have, obviously, multiple data streams open at once. You can be talking on the phone, you can be watching a video, you can do multiple things. Different data streams have different policies. A policy is something like latency, guaranteed bit rate, quality of service. In other words, you get a higher priority to certain types of services and a lower priority to others. You might have a lower priority if you're just surfing the internet, and a higher priority if you're using voice over IP. So these policies can be enforced on these data streams in the home network. Access to the service and website is consistent. So now if I'm in Accra, and I go www, I want to look at the news, so I go www.chicagotribune.com. Well, that is, I'm access here, I'm going to access that from the home network. So that's called home routing. Home routing, that's a very important concept to understand, that data gets tunneled to the home network. Another concept in roaming is called steering of roaming. Steering of roaming. Any questions? Okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I have to look over here. You have to kind of interrupt me occasionally, Raphael,
Okay.
because I don't. You're over on the right hand side here.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned that the data is being sold, and sometimes most users or customers of this phone or services, they overlook or they don't understand what data means. So why is this data being sold, and what kind of information exists in the data that makes
Data.
it valuable
That's
to
a good
you?
point. What do we mean by data? Data is when you use your mobile phone to do any packet type of service. Most of that is going to be the internet. Anytime you use your mobile phone and you want to make a reservation at a restaurant or you want to check something on the internet, that is data. And that data, you are this cell tower here. You got a radio here, and you got a cell tower that's tied into that central switch, what's known as a mobile switching center. Now, that mobile switching center has access to the world because there's data servers out there. There's servers, so you can go www accranews.com. Let's say there's a website for the news, the local news in Accra, and I'm just making that up. But you can access that. However, if you're a roamer, most networks, if not all, most networks do not want you. If I'm an inbound roamer, my home network here does not want me to use to gain access to the data network from the visited system. They want to monitor that. They want to monitor. They want to know that you're going and you're looking for certain kind of tools, or you're looking for mattresses, or whatever you're doing. They sell that information. So that's why if you go onto a website and just you're looking for information, you're going to get advertisements oftentimes for that website because they know what you're doing. So home systems, whenever you go, generally it's always going to be www. You're going to go out to the World Wide Web. That's going to be accessed from the home system. That's called home routing. And it builds what's known as a GTP tunnel. It builds a tunnel, and inside that tunnel is going to be a packet. Kind of the same principle as VPNs, virtual private networks. They do a similar thing where you have a packet inside of a packet. It would be like this. It would be like me writing you a letter. I'm going to write you a letter. So I write you a letter, and I'm going to put it in an envelope. I got just a little envelope. So I'm going to write you a letter. I'm going to put my letter inside here, and I'm going to address that envelope. And it's going to have your address and my return address. Now I'm going to put that envelope in a FedEx envelope, a larger envelope. And that's what this is. Think of this as the FedEx envelope, but inside of there is the little envelope. That's how data gets routed in mobile telephony. It gets routed back to the home network. It's an important concept. Questions on that? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes absolute sense.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
can move in.
Good. Another concept with roaming is called steering. What is steering? Okay, here's the definition. Steering, the option for the home network to select the hosting network for outbound roamers, is called steering or roaming. What does that mean? That means that here, this is one of you that are going to roam. You're roaming somewhere in the world, okay? Now, this is your home network over here. Your home network has most countries, if not all countries, have multiple networks. You have network A, B, and C. For example, in the United States, the three major networks are T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. Steering of roaming allows the home system to make your mobile select a preferred network. So let's say your home system prefers you, and this is your preferred network. If any one of these roamers, let's say these are all roamers from this network, if any one of them try to attach to this network, it's going to deny it. If they try to attach to this network, it'll deny it. If they attach to this network, it'll prefer it. Now you can attach. By attach, what I mean is when you power your mobile phone on, you just fly into a new country, and you fly into a brand new country and you turn your mobile phone on. there's certain, your system that system doesn't know who you are. So it has to go back to the home system and say, who are you? And is this a legitimate phone? And the home system says, yes, this is a legitimate subscriber, and here are all their services. They have call forwarding, they have call waiting, they have no restrictions on short message service, they have no restrictions on circuit services, so they can call anywhere in the world. There's no restrictions. The visited system has to know that. So, and that's what's called an attach. And you get attached to a specific network. Well, if this mobile here tries to attach to a non-preferred network, as a signaling message goes to the home system, it goes through this steering of roaming system. And the steering of roaming system says no. For that subscriber's preferred network is right here. So it'll deny that. They'll say, no, I'm not going to allow that attach. So then this subscriber then tries another network. Let me try to attach to this network. I send a signal back home. It hits this, what's called a steering of roaming system. And that system says, yeah, for that subscriber, that's a good system. And so it will allow that attach. So steering of roaming is a tool used by these operators to try and control which network their outbound roamers attach to. It's a system that allows mobile operators to define different policies for choosing preferred networks for their outbound roamers. This is you're outbound now. You get on an airplane and you fly to Dublin. You are now from Accra's point of view, whatever your network is there, you are an outbound roamer in Dublin. And it allows your home network in Accra to choose which network it wants you to attach to at the other end. Why? Why can't the home network, if this home network signed an agreement here, I choose this one? Because most networks sign multiple agreements. So AT&T, like whatever companies, they would sign one agreement with AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile most likely. Why would you choose one over the other? There's several reasons why. They want to maximize profits. They can get better rates. Remember that network that you're roaming on, when you get on a plane and fly to Dublin, Dublin is charging your home network for you to use that system. You don't see that. You don't get a bill from Dublin, but they are charging your network. Well, maybe this middle network gives a better rate. So this home system in Accra says, I'm going to choose this system in Dublin because they're giving me a better rate than this network or this network. That could be one of the reasons. Visited networks charge the home networks for allowing roamers to use their network. Maybe a home network is going to commit to a certain number of usage. In other words, we can guarantee a lot of roamers coming in, so give us a better rate for that. Maybe this particular network in the middle has, maybe this is fourth generation. Maybe this is a newer network, and these are older networks. So this network here, the home network, wants their outbound roamers to have the best experience when they're roaming. And maybe this is they don't get good experience here or here, so they always try to steer here. But it's steering of roaming is the ability of the home network to choose which network. Now, there's a lot of possibilities there. If this network's not available, will they choose this one? Yes. They would not leave this customer high and dry and not any service. So if this one, for some reason, went down, or they couldn't get access, or there was bad radio frequency in the area they were at, it would attach to another network. But that's the concept called SOR, steering of roaming. Another concept in roaming is what's known as sponsored roaming. I know there's a lot of terms, but these are important concepts when it comes to roaming. You've got all these mobile network operators out there. These are the big ones. These are the big. This is, let's say, MTN in Accra, or MTN is many places. Let's say it's MTN, And here's another large network, maybe that's Vodafone. Here's another large network that's maybe AT&T. And here's another large network, maybe Verizon. Well, they sign all these roaming agreements. They all, these big companies, they have roaming agreements with many, many companies. Now, we have a small little MVNO, mobile virtual network operator out here. And this is in a small little rural area. But they want their customers to be able to roam on these networks. But that's very expensive. It's very expensive to sign roaming agreements with here, another roaming agreement here, another roaming agreement here. So what they'll do is they'll sign a sponsor agreement with a large company. So they kind of like piggyback on there. So it's like they use the services of that sponsored network. So the customers here, their customers at that network, have the ability to roam all over the world because they're going through the sponsored network. So it's the job of the sponsored network to convert all the signaling. The visited network, it appears that all these people coming in here are really from here, even though theoretically or in actuality they're from here. To this operator, it looks like all of their outbound roamers are now roaming right here, even though they're really in these other networks, because all of the connections that are necessary, all the signaling connections, all the data connections, everything, the sponsor is kind of tying those together. We won't get into a lot more detail. We can do this later, but just so you understand the concept of sponsored roaming, think of sponsored roaming as a small little mobile telephone company. Raphael's mobile telephone company. And he can now advertise that if you have my mobile phone, if you get your mobile service from me, you have access to the world. Now, the only way he can do that is to go out and sign agreements with all these big operators, or he goes and finds a sponsor. He finds a sponsor like MTN, and Raphael uses MTN as his sponsor network for roaming purposes. That's called sponsored roaming. Again, just think of it in the concept. So you have steering of roaming, and you have sponsored roaming. Those are important concepts when it comes to roaming. Now, you got to bill though. They don't do this for free. So now you're an inbound roamer. So this is my roamer here. This is his home network over here. So he is now here. What can he do? He can do voice. He can do SMS. He can do data because there's a data tunnel set up here. And the visited network collects all those details. Those are called CDRs, call detail records. So as that inbound roamer uses services, it's collecting that. It knows how many minutes you're on the air. It knows what services and what facilities you're using there. The visited network then puts this into what's known as a TAP file, TAP. That is just a format. That is a standard format called TAP. The visited network then needs to do what? Needs to bill the home network. Hey, this roamer used my services and you now owe me 20 euros. Okay, that's how it works. But however, there's different currencies. There's different billing models. There's different time zones. Maybe this subscriber has a different rate between 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. But there's a 5-hour time zone difference between these two countries, like there is between me and you. What about different formats? What about errors? How about disputes? What if the home network says, no, I don't agree. That user didn't. My records show that user was never in your network. How come I owe you this much money? Plus, any roamers from this network over here, this network is going to bill that network. So if one network owes another one 100 euros, another network says, yeah, but you owe me 90 euros, there's a settlement of accounts of 10 euros. How do all these things get settled? There's hundreds of companies that do this all the time. They go through what's known as clearinghouses, financial clearinghouses. I listed some of these here. Anecto is one. Mock is another one, Cineverse is another one, EDCH. These are all companies that provide that service. It's called data and financial clearing. So they do roaming services, they do settlement of accounts, they do revenue assurance, they do any recharging, they manage the different tariffs. It might be a different tariff rate for me to use a phone in Accra than it is for you to use a phone in Chicago. I mean, there's so many different things throughout the world. They generate invoices. So instead of all of these companies, all these hundreds of companies talking to all these other hundreds of companies, they go through these financial clearing houses. So that's called data and financial clearing. So that's another concept. You have the concept of roaming and all the services, how your services come back to your home network, who bills whom. Steering of roaming is a roaming concept, why you would do that. And then sponsored roaming, which is again another concept. And finally, you have these how billing gets done and the financial clearing houses. Like I said, some of these are new slides, and I will send you a newer copy of that so you have a copy of these slides. But I know some of these concepts are probably new to you. And again, we don't need to know the exact details on how it works, but just be aware that when you roam, it's not that you are just getting on an airplane, you fly, you turn your phone on, and it just happens to work. There's a lot that goes on. That visited network has to communicate with the home network for your services, for any restrictions you have. And there's a lot of communication back and forth over the signaling network.
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that occurred to me when we're talking about the billing, I was wondering, okay, so what if is there a point where the like a home network will or a sponsored network is going to pay like a subscription in order to use the services? I don't know if my
In other words, is there like I didn't hear the first part. You said, is there like a restriction on what services you can use?
No, as in when it gets to the billing, part, if an outbound roamer is using a certain services from a different network, so if they send the billing like this, is there they have to agree, right? So is
Yes.
yeah, do they do like a subscription where they pay like certain duration, or they calculate the all the resources used and then pay for it?
That's gonna vary. Most of the time, it's almost like a certain rate. In other words, but the question, if I understand it, does all these roaming subscribers in this network, they're using all different services. Is there an amount that is that amount going to be different, or is that like a flat rate? Well, it really depends on what services they use. If let's say she uses her phone to make a lot of telephone calls, just normal local calls. Well, that's going to use more services than, let's say, this guy right here. Let's say this guy just comes into the network, powers on his phone, and then says, okay, he doesn't use it at all. He's going to be charged a certain rate by the visited network, but that's going to go back to the home network. So yes, the amount of services you use in here will all be billed back to the home network. That's true. But again, oftentimes these networks might not agree. Hey, they say, hey, Raphael used this much from the service, and the home network says, Raphael, my records show he never even left Accra last month. How can there's always that, because there's different tariffs, different usages, and all that. That's what these clearinghouses do, though. These clearinghouses are meant to do just that, and they do an exact settlement of accounts. But yes, the amount of services you use does make a big difference. Absolutely.
Okay. So how does the roaming services validate like the authenticity? Let's say one network
That's
is
a good point. That's a real good point. How do you know this subscriber made this many telephone calls? Because every time this subscriber makes a telephone call, you get a CDR, a call detail record. And so this network says, okay, I can prove that this subscriber, I can show you the tap file that this subscriber talked this many minutes and called this many telephone numbers while using my network. So yeah, that's all part of the tap file. It's not just trust me, they use this service. No, they have to show that they use that service. And there's an agreed upon when this network signs a roaming agreement with this network, they agree here's how much we're going to charge for services of this network. But there, like I said, there's always disputes, and these disputes get settled by these companies, Necto and Mach and Cineverse. These are companies that really do this the settlement of the accounts. That's a good point. Is that okay? Does that kind
yes.
of make sense?
Yes,
Good.
it makes sense. It makes sense. But I was wondering, the tab files like this, how does it get created? Is the network responsible for creating that? If that,
Yes.
then they can create like any amount they want.
They could say, hey, this subscriber really, this subscriber used this for 600 minutes. Now, once that subscriber gets billed here, this thing says, oh, I see where you used 600 minutes to voice call. And this subscriber comes back and says, no, I didn't. I never used my phone once. So you're right. There are those kind of disputes because the home network is going to, in turn, bill you. You don't want to, if I travel to Accra, I don't want to get a bill from there. And they don't want me to, they want to send a bill to Verizon. Verizon then bills me. So I get this bill and it says, hey, this mobile company in Accra says that I use 600 minutes of usage on calls. I never used my phone once, or I only used it for 100 minutes. That's part of the disputes. But the tap file should show. The tap file should show here's exactly who you called and how long you talked.
Okay. Thanks very much. I think this clears most of our doubts right now. Is there any other question before we zoom out? Is there any other question? Okay, if not, then this brings us to the end of today's session as well. Okay, I believe there is a question.
I'm gonna stop sharing now.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put you over to here.
Yes.
There we go. Now you're in front of me again.
Okay. There's a question.
So,
I saw.
is there a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
So, in a situation where there's a, say, fraudulent activity happening, do the tab files like go to the home network immediately? Like how are they able to
No,
distinguish
that's a good point. No,
and-
these tab files generally are bulked, and now they'll send them in a bulk. It's not instantaneous. It's like every few days, every couple of days, they'll send these tab files. It's in more of a bulk form. They don't wait till the end of the month. They are on a more of a time basis than that. That's a good point. That's a real good point. And that's going to vary. When they sign roaming agreements, they agree that this is how often you're going to send these tap files.
So in a situation where a SIM card is uses roaming services, but it's like a fraudulent activity. Like the SIM belongs to somebody else, or maybe the person got the SIM from Ghana, moved abroad, and made some expensive calls or something like that. How are they able to distinguish such situations from like a normal user that is using the roaming network?
Well, you got to remember the tap files identify who you are, and you're known by your IMSI, you're known by your telephone number. So I mean, there's identities when you if I'm understanding your question, it is not just a trust me, Raphael used this many minutes this month. It has to show, the tab files have to show exactly when you did it and what number that you used the facilities for. Was that the question? I'm not sure.
So it wouldn't be possible for somebody to like impersonate somebody else, or like for any fraudulent activities to happen.
Would it be
over
possible,
roaming.
is the question, are you asking, would it be possible
Yes.
for someone to assume someone else's
Yes.
identity?
Yes.
Yes. And that's why you have signaling firewalls. And we're gonna go into signaling firewalls. We're gonna talk more about them, but that's exactly what it is. That prevents me from going over somewhere and assuming someone else's identity. The firewalls, the signaling firewalls will prevent that, because the protocols that are used in mobile networks today are legacy protocols. In other words, they were written 25, 30 years ago, and they are not secure. They don't authenticate who the originator is or anything like that. So they are legacy protocols. Some of those protocols are called SS7. You might have heard of Signaling System 7, SS7, Diameter, another protocol. So yeah, we're gonna talk. We're gonna get into some of the details on why those are not secure. But yeah, that is a problem. You're exactly right. Anything else?
Okay, so I believe this brings us to the end.
Okay.
And thank you guys for making today's session interesting.
Yes, thank you very much.
As well for everything. So believe next week we'll also meet Wednesday
next week.
Yes.
Now there might be another group on Tuesday, Thursday. We don't know yet.
Yes,
right?
we don't know yet.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like Nene has a question. You can go on, Nene.
So I want to ask whether a user can choose his or her own roaming network. Like whether a user can choose his or her own roaming network to roam rather than the network making that choice for the user.
Okay, so can I reframe? If it's correct, then you let me know. So are you asking if a user has the ability to choose their roaming service that they want, or their roaming network when they go to a different country?
Yes, to some degree, yes, and we'll talk more about that when we look more in more detail at steering of roaming. You can there's settings on your phone where you can say you prefer this network. Most people don't do that. Most people just power on and they choose a network. There's a better way than just having, like I explained, where you go to one network and then you get refused. You go to another network and get refused. That takes time. The better way to do that is for the home network to put on your SIM card your preferred network. Now I get on a plane, I fly to Accra, my SIM card says, oh, choose Vodafone or choose MTN or whatever that network is. So a better way to do this is is on the SIM card. Can you override things? Yeah, you can. If you can to a degree override them, but for the most part, no. You're gonna choose whatever network that your home network wants you to roam on, because they get a better rate on a certain network. Now it's not always choose network B. Sometimes they might say, I want 20% of my customers to go to network A, I want 10% to go to network B, I want 70% to network C. And they do this on the networks too. So that's going to vary. But that's all part of the steering of roaming system, that the home network is dictating the network that you attach to.
Is it clear, Nene?
It's clear.
Okay.
Very
If
well.
you have any other questions, write them down, and we'll see you the same time next Wednesday.
Yes. All right.
And we'll look at more of these concepts, and we're going to get into some identities too, hopefully by then. So enjoy your weekend, enjoy your class tonight. And I also would like to thank you for participating. I'm enjoying this very much.
Yes, us too. All right. Let's
Okay.
take it in. Bye.
Okay, bye.
I know your class.